Problem I see is that politicians are fighting for power, and I'm very sorry to say this, for their own personal interest. Looking at the development in Sabah and Sarawak, even in West Malaysia, if you compare the states within West Malaysia vis-a-vis the states of Sabah and Sarawak, Sarawak is no worse off than Kelantan, Kedah or Perlis. You cannot look only at the Klang Valley. The Klang Valley by itself is a developed area of Malaysia. You cannot compare Kota Kinabalu to the Klang Valley. You cannot compare Kuching to Klang Valley. But if you look at Kuching and Kota Kinabalu, they have developed much more than the town of Alor or the town of Kota Baru. So Sabah and Sarawak cannot say they're left behind. They're not. Whether how they use the revenue to develop their country is another matter altogether. If they had used the revenue, the state revenue, to develop the states in the way it should have been done, maybe they would have been better off than what they are today. You don't agree with me? When you're a small territory, you are open to threats by your neighbors or by any big powers within the world. In the world, take for example India. India was very strong. India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, one territory under the British. And then when India got independent, there was quarrel between the Muslims and the Hindus, so Pakistan split. And then there is East Pakistan and West Pakistan. And then there was a further split between the East Pakistan and West Pakistan. So there are three. And now Kashmir is also talking about wanting to leave India. So when you become small, there's no strength there. And that is why I mentioned about USSR. They're split into small territories, and they can be bullied by the big powers. China is very wise. They retain it. So now come back to Malaya, Sabah, and Sarawak. They don't want to call Malaya, they call Peninsular Malaysia. Okay, Peninsular Malaysia, Sabah, and Sarawak. If we are split into three different territories, three different governments, then we become very weak, and we can be bullied by the superpowers of the world. You see, Hong Kong is part of China. Although the Western powers were trying to break Hong Kong away from China, China is resisting it. They don't want to let go of Hong Kong. Now, assuming that happens to Hawaii, and Hawaii wants to break away from the US, do you think the US government will allow it to do that? Even Scotland trying to split away from United Kingdom, the United Kingdom is resisting from allowing that to happen. So now, instead of looking at our differences, why don't we look at our common features? What are the things that strengthens us, rather than looking at problems which are splitting us? I said somewhere, do not look for excuses to break up, find for reasons for us to work together. And I think for the benefit of the younger people, the next one or two generations, present population, the present generation must continue to find ways to solve all the problems and work together for a better future.
The perception too is because Sabah and Sarawak's socio-economic development is dictated by West Malaysia.
I don't agree. Not in every respect. It's been said that certain policies of the state is being dictated by the federal government. I don't agree with that. I don't agree. There are a lot of things. Certain states are more advanced than others. Look, for example, look at Selangor. They're doing very well. The policy of Selangor, Melaka, Johor, they're doing very well. They're not dictated by the federal government. Why do you say that Sabah and Sarawak's policies are being dictated by the federal government? If only the politics of Sabah in particular, if only the politicians of Sabah work together for the better future of Sabah, then everything will be good. The problem I see is that politicians are fighting for power, and I'm very sorry to say this, for their own personal interest. Forget about your personal interest. Think what they do is for the good of the state, their own state. Do things for the good of their communities. I know within communities they are still fighting. They are still fighting. Each community is fighting to have their own rights, accusing that I don't have this right or the other. Why is somebody else getting more benefit than me? I don't deny that the federal government should also do more for the state. I don't deny it can be better. For example, internet. But then the nature of the Sarawak and Sabah, it says that the population is so sparse. The population is so sparse. So when you want to provide broadband or internet into these territories, the cost is different. Per head cost has gone up. Whereas in the Klang Valley, the cost is very low per head cost. And because the provision of internet and broadband is commercial based, then you can't help the fact that the areas with denser population will get better facilities than those outside the population. Those in the rural side will get less. Even if you go to Kedah, Alor, Perlis, the internet there is not as good. Broadband there is not as good. So you cannot look at Kota Kinabalu, Kuching, and compare it with the Klang Valley. You have to compare Kota Kinabalu, Kuching with Alor, Kanga, Kuantan, and the smaller Kuala Terengganu. You compare to Sabah and Sarawak. Kota Kinabalu is growing like nobody's business. I've been going there for the last few years. I've been going there almost every month, and I saw it growing every time I go. I've not been to Kuching for quite some time, but now Kuching has, within one city, has two separate sub-cities. Kuching and Southern Kuching or something like that. Southern Kuching. So, and they're so much bigger than these small cities or small towns in West Malaysia or Peninsular Malaysia. So don't look at the good things lah. Don't look at the You know, the don't look at the negative side. Look at the positive side.
I think the mistake that we make, at least those of us here in the West, is that we regard Sabah and Sarawak as the 13th and 14th state, when in fact they're basically separate territories equal to Semenanjung.
Yes, and the size of Sabah and Sarawak, the size of Sarawak is bigger than Semenanjung. But the population density, Sarawak is the density is so low. But the revenue they were having is big. Forget about the oil. The other revenue, big. If they had money, their revenue had been used to develop the state, where would they be today? If the revenue of Sabah is being used to develop the state of Sabah, where is the money today? You know, in that respect, the revenue of West Malaysia is relatively per square mile, I think is less than Sabah and Sarawak. I think so.
Because West Malaysia is being developed as a country, Sabah and
Yes.
Sarawak are being developed as states. So the approach is probably very different in how they develop those respective territories.
I don't agree with that. I repeat what I said. Look at the states in West Malaysia, the states of Peninsular Malaysia, Perlis, Kedah, you know, Kelantan. You take the same size of Kedah and put it within Sarawak. You take the Kuching of Sarawak and put in the side. Tell me who's more advanced.
Yeah.
How do I say in a very polite, but I said already, if the money has been utilized for the development, I didn't accuse anybody. I didn't say anything. All I say, if the money is being utilized properly for the benefit of the state will be more advanced than
You
it is
said
now.
that
I think is rather with regret that I have to say. I cannot comment too much about Sabah and Sarawak because I'm from here. I grew up here, not Sabah, Sarawak. But from whatever I know of Sabah and Sarawak, and from conversations that I had with people from Sabah and Sarawak, I've lots of friends from Sabah and Sarawak. It's a pity that the revenue of the two states could have been properly spent in a way that benefits the territories or the two states better than it has been. And perhaps that was the result of poor governance. Maybe not knowing how to run the state government. So that is I think that could be the cause of the states not being developed in a more effective or positive way. That's how I view it.